6 p.m. sharp. We call the meeting to order. I want to welcome all of you that are here in person and are here virtually. And we thank you for your interest. This is a baby town meeting. And the purpose of this meeting, the Finance Committee reviews the proposed fiscal year 26 operating and capital budgets and warrant articles, and those specifically with financial implications for the town of Stockbridge. And those warrants and articles will be presented at the town meeting for town approval come Monday at the town meeting on the 19th at 6:30. Before I get into the details of this meeting, I'd like to introduce our committee. This is a very, very special group of people, and tell everybody for the record a little bit about each of you. Jim Bolfance, former executive director for the United States Ski Association and Ski Team, and a co-owner of a manufacturer's representative company, and past president and board member of CTSB TV. Pam Boudreau, universal banker at Lee Bank and former Stockbridge Chamber of Commerce treasurer. Rich Bradway, digital information officer of the Norman Rockwell Museum, prior to which he had a similar position for the Boston Symphony Orchestra. He past member of the Stockbridge School Committee, Campusa Bog Committee, presently serves on the Stockbridge Mohegan Commission, as well as current president of the Stockbridge Land Trust. Ed Lane, 36 years as a consulting actuary, certified financial planner for a major Fortune 500 company, university professor of finance and economics, and also current treasurer of the Stockbridge Library. Georgia Marsden, former town clerk, assistant tax collector, assistant treasurer, retired town administrator. Also, I think you've had almost every job there is in this town, Georgia. Also a warden of a very prominent Stockbridge church. And on the boards of Norman Rockwell Museum and Riverbrook, the Kiwanis Club of Lee, and treasurer of the Williams High Alumni Association. Diane Roos could not unfortunately be with us this evening. She has customers at the inn. The season has begun. Diane is a current owner and operator of a local inn, past president of the Stockbridge Chamber of Commerce and All Berkshire Chamber Business Group, and past member of the Berkshire Opera, board member of the Berkshire Opera Company. Stephen Schatz, practicing attorney for 48 years. You still practicing, or have you learned how to do it?
It was hard. I didn't really.
Okay.
That's why I retired.
A past member of the Stockbridge Planning Board, Housing Committee, past chair and select board member of the town, former CATA president and board member, a committee member of the Berkshire Hills Regional School District, as well as the rest of the River Committee. Bill Vogt, a retired senior management in corporate and municipal finance for a Fortune major internationally recognized banking organization, board member of the Hancock Shaker Village, Camp Hill Village, the Stockbridge Planning Board, and currently on the Berkshire Hills Regional School District. And yours truly, a retired senior manager of a Fortune 500 insurance brokerage firm, past university board chairman, past hospital association board chairman, past board member of a hospital, and currently a board member of the Boston Medical Center, and have currently the chairman of the Stockbridge Finance Committee, unfortunately, I could never hold a job. So, I've got to go where I can go. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you all very much for your commitment, participation, and dedication to the service of our town. Really appreciate it. And it's appreciated by many people in the town also. And I also want to thank Michael Canales, our town administrator, as well as the department heads for their input in the development of the budget and warrant articles, along with support from our select board. And particular thanks are due Gary Johnson, our moderator, who was appointed this exceptionally qualified finance committee with individuals of very diverse financial background and also a number with town experience, town committee and governmental experience. So that's where we are at this point. And I'd like to briefly review our meeting agenda. And basically, what we have here is we have to approve the minutes of our last meeting. We'll very briefly talk about the Finance Committee report and the books for 2024. We will review and discuss the articles and warrants that, as I mentioned, will be presented at the town meeting for town vote. And basically, that's where we're at unless there is additional business. So to move on, the minutes of April 30, 2025.
I'll move approval.
Just one sec. I did get a comment from Jim Ballfence, okay, indicating that an inclusion be made, comments to the effect that before Steve Schatz spoke regarding Article 17, it should be noted that every piece of property taken off the tax rolls increases the cost of things like affordable housing due to appreciation of price of all remaining pieces of property. Comment made by Stephen Schatz at the last meeting. We can make a motion if you would like to include that or not include that.
I move they be approved with the amendment.
Okay, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody approved? Anybody opposed? Okay, so.
I abstain.
Okay, you were not present.
Right.
Okay, sorry, I just had to put down who approved and who seconded. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Moving on. Basically, the role of the Finance Committee, as I briefly mentioned, is an organization to approve or disapprove every article that is referred by the selectmen that deals with appropriation of borrowing money, creation of debt, or disposal of property of the town. That is the role and purpose of the Finance Committee. And basically, the baby town meeting, the original purpose of the baby town meeting, frankly, before we've had virtual meetings, was to give all interested taxpayers the opportunity to talk about appropriations before they're voted upon at the town meeting coming up. Moving into our agenda, the 2024 fiscal year report, which was circulated to all residents and members of the town. The certified financial balance was 1.696 million at the annual town meeting, May 2024. Free cash, that's the certified free cash balance. Free cash was used for the following purposes following that meeting. 100,000 payment for the balance of bond notes for highway trucks, $65,000 for a highway department tractor, $270,000 for a highway department plow truck, $175,000 for a roadside mower, and $70,000 for a highway department one-ton pickup. This is the use of free cash so that we don't have to go back and affect the tax rate to pay for these things. Also, with that meeting, $42,500 for police department mental health co-responder programs, and $13,500 to fund police department repeaters. Other projects utilizing free cash, $500,000 for bridge reconstruction and repairs, $50,000 for town engineering projects, $25,000 for the transfer station and structural painting, and $75,000 to permit, develop Stockbridge bowl dredging. Basically, the Berkshire Hills Regional School Assessment at that time was $3,797,000. That's the operating assessment. The capital assessment was $69,145. That was at the 2024 meeting for fiscal year 2025. We will now get into the articles, and basically the first one I'm going to talk about a couple of them, and then the committee will take over. Article number 4 is the operating budget for the town of Stockbridge. Proposed budget for 2026. The proposed budget is basically $13,425,434, or a 9% increase. And the 13 million includes education. And the way we structure the articles, we have to approve articles exclusive of education, and also a capital budget for education, which are separate. So basically, as we go through the operating budget for 2026, we mentioned there was a 9% increase. And these are the areas, very briefly, where the increase occurred. General government, 2.1%. Increases in selectmen expenses, in town accountant expenses, in the principal assessor certification stipend, in assessors expenses, and salaries for the treasurer collector, assistant treasurer collector, town clerk, and assistant town clerk. Also under general government, there were increases in Stockbridge Bowl Stewardship Committee expenses and IT, information technology. Public safety, next one. We've had some increases in salaries. We are full quota of police officers. Police department expenses had increases. Fire department salaries expanding in that area, fire and EMS, and building inspector salaries. This time around, we will have consolidation of the building inspector function with Lee, Lennox, Stockbridge, and Great Barrington. They will reimburse part of the cost to us, as well as us supporting it. The building inspector is physically located here, and basically a lot of that has occurred. Lee has done away with some office space for Tri-Town Health and other functions. So that is an increase. Education, a very modest increase of $287,000 for the operating budget, and the capital budget, which will be a separate article, was reduced by $64,000. Much of the debt has been retired. So Public Works increased 3%. Transfer station salaries, highway department machinery, transfer station compactor expenses, cemetery salaries, and sewer department expenses noted some increases. Human Services, basically Tri-Town Health has increased slightly, and also Council on Aging expenses, that section has increased 5%. Culture and Recreation increased operation expenses for the library as well as the Memorial Day Committee. And debt service is reduced almost 2%, 1.8%, because much of the debt has been retired. Employee benefits unfortunately increased due to Berkshire County retirement funding and also Berkshire Health and Dental Insurance. So basically, all of that amounts to a 9% increase. This is Article 4, a 9% increase translated to an initial 3.5% increase in the tax rate. That's what it means in plain English at this point. That's Article 4. Article 5, we talked about the operating budget of 4 million and change, 4,084,874. That's Article 5. That's a 7% increase, predominantly salaries and benefits. And the capital budget, which is Article 6, was a reduction of 64,000 due to debt retirement. At this point, again, that is the operating budget and including and excluding education. I'd like to call on Steve Schatz, Article number 7, OPEB.
Can I just, did you tell the audience that we approved all those articles?
Excuse me, I'm terribly sorry. The finance, all of these articles have been acted upon by the Finance Committee. Articles 4, 5, and 6 presented today were unanimously approved by the Finance Committee. Article number 7.
Okay. Article number 7 was approved by a vote of 5-2 of the Finance Committee. I think I will try to characterize what the thinking was of the majority. They, I think, believed, and I don't disagree with it necessarily, that $155,000 transfer from OPEB to, in effect, support the tax rate is justified based upon actuarial figures. Excuse me. The two people who voted for it.
Yeah, let's look at.
Thank you very much. You were looking at me strangely, Rich.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I should remember how I voted. And the 5 who opposed the transfer have very strong feelings about the sanctity of the OPEB trust fund, which I think is fair to say. And I might add personally, for the two of us, if I may, who voted in favor of it, we also believe in the sanctity of that fund.
Right.
We just have a slight difference about valuation this year. This is a fund which will be subject to subject to annual evaluation by a trained actuarial company. And I'm sure that this will come up again next year and we will have a similar discussion. So that is the outcome of Article 7.
And again, it was rejected by the committee 5-2.
No.
I believe it
Oh, yeah.
was 6-2.
I'm sorry?
I believe the vote was 6-2. There were 8 of us.
We have to take the committee is 7 with 2 alternates, okay? The alternates vote in place of somebody not present. So for the record, it's 5-2, okay? The quota of the committee is 7, all right?
All right.
And
Okay,
we just
but
explained,
it was unanimous. It was not, it was 5-2,
So members only.
all right?
so just so that the public knows about the OPEB fund, it's funding that we have been put aside for retirement benefits for health insurance costs for retirees. And our actuary has said that we should be fully funded by 2028. And at that point, then I would consider taking the retirees' health insurance from there once we're fully vested. We are one of the very few towns and cities in Massachusetts that have been funding this and are almost up to our
Limit.
limit.
The actuarial
Status.
certainty.
Right.
Okay. All right. So basically, just to reiterate, OPEB does not include funding for pensions. It does include benefits funding, for example, for retired employees, health insurance, dental, vision, prescription, and other related benefits to retirees and their beneficiaries. That's specifically what that is for. So any other comments relative to OPEB? Moving on, Article 8, we did not address or vote on Article 8 at our last meeting. Article 8 really deals with the prudent investment rule. And basically, Michael has circulated information on the prudent investment rule that gives the town the right to invest up to 15% of certain funds in stock, okay? Otherwise, basically, the funds would have to be guaranteed. And the stocks are stipulated by the state of Massachusetts. And basically, Michael, do you feel we should have a vote? I guess we should probably have a vote of the committee for Article 8.
Yeah, it has financial impact. It allows the investment in certain categories of stocks, other investment options that are out there, which are considered slightly higher risk. In 2023, the state adopted this rule and said that communities can accept it. It does limit where you can invest and which portfolios you can.
And how much?
Yep.
Question. Massachusetts has what's known as the so-called legal list. Is this an expansion of the legal list, Michael? Is that what this represents? The legal list, I mean, there was in fact for years.
Right, was the funds that you're allowed to.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the companies were actually listed periodically in the legal list.
Yeah.
One of the anomalies that was of interest was that at a time when communities were in litigation with General Electric stock, which declined by 70% during that period, was on the legal list. So it didn't give us a very good feeling about what the state was permitting at that time.
Let me read this if I might. Under the KP law document that was circulated to the committee, Section 38, Chapter 29 deals with bonds or notes which are legal investments for savings banks. Cities and towns having funds in their custody of the treasurer in an aggregate amount in excess of 250,000 may also invest such funds in securities other than mortgages or collateral loans, which are legal for the investment of funds of savings banks under the laws of the Commonwealth, and not more than 15% can be invested in those funds. So that's what was circulated to the committee. Are there any other comments relative to this? If not, can we have a motion to approve?
Before doing so, has the select board voted on this?
Yes.
And
He said, yeah.
All these have been approved.
approved?
Yeah, if not, they wouldn't be on the warrant.
Thank you.
I'll move the approval.
Jim? Second? Ed?
Second.
All in favor?
I,
Anybody opposed? Okay, unanimous. Thank you. All right, moving on, if we will, to Article number 13. Article 13 deals with the use of free cash for a number of purposes. This has previously been unanimously approved by the Finance Committee as well as the Select Board. And there were several items here that were put on hold for language changes, specifically number 4, 12, and 14, in which it states town hall, and the committee was asking for a language change to town offices for those. So
what numbers were those again?
they were Article 4, they were numbers 4, 12, and 14.
Not 6?
Well, excuse me, I'm the one that did the hold and I saw that one after the fact and it should have been held because it isn't the Stockbridge Town Hall Park, it's Bidwell Park.
That's the park right there.
That's right over here next to our parking lot. Yeah,
Basically, the language should be town offices.
right.
Okay,
But on this one, number 6, as Steve pointed out, should say Bidwell Park,
right.
not Stockbridge Town Hall Parks and Recreation.
Okay, so we're talking about 4, 6, 12, and 14. We're adding number 6, okay? Go ahead, Ed.
I will paraphrase because the detail is provided. There are 18 items. The first one, 50,000 for the breathing air compressor for the fire department. Number 2 is 10,141 for our share, the Stockbridge share of the Tri-Town Health move for fiscal 25. Excuse me. 288,000 for a type 1 ambulance. 30,000 for reconstruction and repair of the town office's roof. 50,000 for the feasibility study for a new fire station. 60,000 for the funding of a pickleball and skating rink at the town offices, parks and recreation fields. 33,500 for funding for a Revolutionary War memorial. 25,000 in funding the 250th anniversary of the county. 10,000 for replacement of a 40-yard straight wall dumpster at the transfer station. 80,000 for tuition and transportation to Taconic High School for, excuse me, career exploratory program. 15,000 for funding clickers for the town hall meetings, town offices meetings, town meetings. 15,000 for engineering and architectural building envelope survey for town offices. 15,000 for radar feedback speed signs for the police department. 16,000 for a new flagpole at town offices. 72,000 for a hybrid police cruiser for the police department. 200,000 for funding additional work at the Stockbridge Chime Tower. 50,000 for funding a retirement payout stabilization fund for the payment of accrued sick leave and vacation time. And finally, 814,632 for the general stabilization fund.
Thank you. Ed, any comments or thoughts relative to this? Again, the committee did approve all of these with a hold on 3, now 4 of them, to change the language from town hall to town offices. So moving on, Article number 14, Pam Boudreau, dealing with the appropriation of funding for sewer.
Okay. To see if the town will vote to transfer and appropriate a sum of money from available surplus for the following specified projects and take any action in relation thereto. To transfer and appropriate $125,000 to fiscal year 25, Article 10, number 1, for the purpose of funding various sewer main replacements. To transfer and appropriate $25,000 for the purpose of funding pump station pumps overhaul. Transfer and appropriate $30,500 for the purpose of funding half the cost of a hybrid half-ton 4x4 pickup truck. And transfer and appropriate $17,563 for the purpose of reducing the amount to be raised through sewer rates for the fiscal year 2026.
Okay, yes.
Pam, you read number 1 in this article, different from what's written.
Transfer.
Yeah.
Copy. What is,
Okay.
what did you got?
No, it's just different.
But why is it different?
Legal counsel said.
He had a revision since then that was handed out at the last meeting.
Oh,
So which one's right?
The one that's on the screen is the actual warrant going to town meeting, which is transferred to
Right.
125 for
So-
funding. Legal said we didn't have to put when they
legal
redid the,
counsel said we didn't.
Okay,
legal reviewed the warrant,
Got it.
sent it to them and got
So I don't have
back.
to do that here too.
Okay,
got it.
All right.
okay, and again, these were unanimously approved by the committee as well as the select board. Pam?
Okay, Article 15, to see if the town will vote to transfer and appropriate a sum of money from available surplus for the following specified projects or take any action in relation thereto. Transfer and appropriate $5,000. I don't have to put year to date. Right?
Right.
Article 11, number 2, for the purpose of funding the replacement of the water plant rolling dock exterior stairway. Transfer and appropriate $5,000 for the purpose of funding the Marion Fathers water storage tank cleaning. Transfer and appropriate $30,500 for the purpose of funding half the cost of a hybrid half-ton 4x4 pickup truck, and transfer and appropriate $74,109 for the purpose of reducing the amount to be raised through water rates fiscal year 2026. And once again, the Finance Committee voted unanimously to approve Articles 14 and 15.
Any comments, questions, or thoughts regarding that? Okay, moving on to Article number 16. Article 16 dealing with the Community Preservation Committee proposal. Yep.
Okay, the recommendations from the Community Preservation for fiscal year 2026 is follows. Appropriate from Community Preservation undesignated fund balance a sum of $100,000 for affordable housing purposes to be used by the town of Stockbridge for the funding of the Stockbridge Housing Trust. 2, appropriate from Community Preservation undesignated fund balance a sum of $76,744 for affordable housing purposes to be used by reconstruction of siding and decks at Pine Woods. 3, appropriate from the Community Preservation undesignated fund balance a sum of $32,300 for affordable housing purposes to be used by Stockbridge Housing Authority for replacement of damaged siding boards. 4, appropriate from Community Preservation undesignated fund balance a sum of $40,000 for historic preservation purposes to be used by the Norman Rockwell Museum for roof repairs to the Linwood and Ice House. 5, appropriate from community preservation undesignated fund balance a sum of $90,000 for historic preservation purposes to be used by the Berkshire Waldorf High School for installation of a wheelchair ramp at the Old Town Hall. 6, appropriate from community preservation undesignated fund balance a sum of $20,000 for historic preservation purposes to be used by the Town of Stockbridge Cemetery Commission for the restoration of the historic Hearst House. 7, appropriate from community preservation undesignated fund balance a sum of $11,000 for historic preservation purposes to be used by the Stockbridge Library, Museum, and Archives for conservation of the oil painting of Agrippa Hall and a 1739 plot map of town land allocations. 8, appropriate from community preservation undesignated fund balance a sum of $25,000 for open space recreational purposes to be used by Chesterwood for restoration of the studio gardens. 9, appropriate from community preservation undesignated fund balance a sum of $5,000 for open space recreational purposes to be used by the Stockbridge Housing Authority for raised flower bed. 10, appropriate from community preservation undesignated fund balance a sum of $33,500 for open space recreational purposes to be used by the Town of Stockbridge for the creation of a Revolutionary War monument. 11, appropriate from community preservation undesignated fund balance a sum of $22,500 for open space recreational purposes to be used by the Town of Stockbridge for an Ice Glen experience. 12, appropriate from community preservation open space reserve balance a sum of $5,600 for open space recreational purposes to be used by the Friends of Gould Meadows for work at Gould Meadows to preserve open space by removal of invasive species, tree and garden work in order to enhance visitor experience and safety by installing benches, removing invasive plantings, and planting native species on the stream edges. 13, appropriate from community preservation open space reserve balance a sum of $45,000 for open space recreational purposes to be used by the Stockbridge Parks and Recreation Committee to create a covered shed to host concerts in the park. 14, appropriate from community preservation historic preservation reserve balance a sum of $20,000 for historic preservation purposes to be used by the Town of Stockbridge for restoration of the Elizabeth West Stone. 15, appropriate from the community preservation undesignated fund balance a sum of $15,000 for the FY26 CPC administrative budget. 16, reserved to the historic resource reserve, the community housing reserve, and the open space reserve from community preservation anticipated FY26 annual revenues, the minimum amount required by Mass General Law, Chapter 44B, Section 6, which expected request is $38,897 per category. And the Finance Board unanimously approved this article.
Rich.
I just have a question, just a point of clarification. So the text of these articles comes from the CPC?
Yes.
So the one thing I just noticed, and it just might be more for clarification, is on number 13 with respect to the covered shed. It says to host concerts in the park. And I think it should be articulated which park,
Right.
because we have a few parks.
Okay, so we can qualify that. So basically 13,
That's it.
number 13, qualify specific, I could look it up, but
I'm assuming it's Bidwell
It
Park,
is
but
Bidwell.
Yeah.
thank you.
We
Okay.
can put it into the motion.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted. Jay, I have a question.
go ahead, Bill.
Maybe I'm the only one in the room who doesn't know. What is the Elizabeth West Stone? And where is it? And
In the cemetery. It's in the cemetery.
One of those flat panel stones, you know, the ones that are still in the ground. It's right next to,
The Hearst House. Is it the Hearst House?
No, it's over in the old section. Right, a couple of years ago, the CPC recommended to do the sergeant stone, and these are the table stones. They have legs, they sit up. It's quite the project to redo the stone.
And there is no stone descendant who can pay for this?
We're beyond that point right now. No, this was.
Just asking.
Unfortunately, you were not at the meeting.
Every stone has been turned.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Is this from the town of Stockbridge or is it from the cemetery commission?
It's from,
Right, man?
That should probably be said as well as it for the, there was another one, wasn't there? That I just read so many, I can't remember.
Cemetery commission is the town.
Right. Oh, number 6. Stockbridge Cemetery Commission. So wouldn't we say that in the motion too? Number 14.
This is how it came, this is how they came through from CPC. So,
Okay.
yep.
Okay, any other comments?
But if we're gonna change in the park and identify which park, why can't we change cemetery commission in item number
Well,
14?
we're not gonna change anything. We're just.
Well, I mean, why can't-
Meeting identified.
Okay, okay.
Okay, moving on, article number 17. Steve?
Okay, well, the finance committee voted not to recommend this petition article to the town meeting.
Would you like to do a little background before?
Yeah,
I mean, we got to the point at the end very quickly.
I'm going to the end and I'm going to come back to the beginning. Okay, and the beginning starts with, or repeats what Jay read from the charge, if you will, of the finance committee as it appears in the town bylaw, the general bylaw. And the finance committee has the obligation to make recommendations, be it positive or negative, regarding matters relating to, to the expenditure of funds or to the incursion of debt. The finance committee is not a surrogate board of select board. It is not a surrogate planning board. It does not make, it may, people on this committee have very strong opinions about a variety of things, but our role is limited to making recommendations based upon our perception of the efficacy of incurring debt or the expenditure of funds. Now, having said that, my sense of the vote, again, was that there were two things that were troubling to this committee. One was that the $600,000 appropriation would, after the payment of various items from free cash, which appear in a prior article, would reduce our free cash balance to $70,000. And that was felt by the finance committee to be a reserve limit, or reserve amount rather, in free cash that was much too low. It was pointed out that the finance committee, as well as the select board, within recent months, have both adopted a 10 and 5 stabilization and reserve balance requirement. And this would in fact violate that policy which these two boards have recently adopted. That was concern number one. Concern number two was that it was a caution, I think, more than anything else, that removing this parcel, this 35-acre parcel, from the tax rolls would pass on the tax burden to existing taxpayers for the loss of revenue from that parcel. Now, the one parcel that was pointed out was hardly enough to make, a significant difference in the tax rate, but it would set, in this case, it was believed by this committee, a precedent for the some 50-odd parcels of land currently under Chapter 61, which, if removed, would shift the tax burden to existing taxpayers. As I said, there was a lot of other discussion about, policy and affordable housing, and I'm one of the ones who shouldn't have said that, but I did, as a reminder to someone who was sitting here. And but I think the two principal concerns that fall within the ambit of the limitation on the jurisdiction of the Finance Committee are the first two items that I've just mentioned.
Jim?
Steve, I have a comment regarding what you said. I don't know why you shouldn't have made the comment you made, because it was an accurate comment in that every piece of land that is taken off the tax rolls increases the valuation of all other properties, which, as you said, in effect, will affect the affordable housing situation in this town. So I don't know why you should be upset. That's my comment.
No, I just think there's a sort of a jurisdictional question here. We've always tried to be very careful on the Finance Committee, at least in my experience with it, as well as on the Select Board, to be very careful about going beyond the jurisdiction of these committees.
Correct.
What I said, Jim, I believe. Okay, it's not because I don't believe it, but I think the principal reasons, at least in my mind, relate to the reserve fund, the reduction in free cash, and the reduction in the reserve fund in violation of the spirit, certainly, of the vote which the two committees took a couple of months ago, as well as shifting tax burden, potential for major shifts in tax burden to existing taxpayers.
Hey, any other comments? Just one very simple aside on this, that the availability, and this comes from the Department of Legal Services, the Financial Management Resource Bureau, which recommends that communities understand the role of free cash in sustaining a strong credit rating for the town. And a strong credit rating for the town enables us to borrow money when we get into major projects like bridges, buildings, and so forth. So just an aside, okay? Any other comments relative to the articles that have been presented thus far? Is there any additional business to come before this committee meeting?
I have a question over the articles, if you don't mind. And this is for Michael, and it might just be my recollection. It's Article 8 on the prudential investment. When we were voting on that, the assumption was, once again, my recollection would be wrong, but we didn't really talk about stocks. What we were talking is obviously the ability to place the money in banks that were fully insured beyond the FDIC limit, that were offering 3 or 4% interest rather than the prudential banks that were offering 1% interest. And that was the nature of the discussion was, the money's completely protected, which is not like a stock market investment scheme. It was about just basically being able to go to somebody like some of the local banks where you can put certain types of accounts.
But that's not what the statute says.
Well, I'm just saying that to the degree that it involves a stock market, I would recommend maybe the finance committee.
Well,
The language is specific that 15% of any such trust funds can be invested in bank stocks and insurance company stocks, not more than 1.5% of any such investment in stocks in any one bank or
It
insurance.
doesn't require us to do.
No, it doesn't require us to do it. Right.
The point I was going to make is I think that this committee should before we start investing in the stock market, perhaps create a prudential committee that would advise the town on use of, on how we invest our money. I would not be comfortable putting money in the stock market without really.
Patrick, there are definitive, this was circulated. I don't know if you saw this. But it's pretty clear as to where it goes.
You may excited to be on Russia, I saw.
So, yeah, we respect your thoughts, but obviously we're not talking about arbitrary and capricious investments in the market, certainly. It's definitive, very definitive under the laws of the Commonwealth. Go ahead.
I will say that in regards to what Pat was saying, other towns who have done the prudent investment rule have established their own internal policies of what they feel comfortable with. So this is something that the finance committee could develop
In time.
in time, prior to investment, we could come up with, you can restrict what the treasurer could do if so desired.
Maybe we should consider for the future an investment committee, which we had at one time. I think that would be very prudent because we did have an investment committee.
A subcommittee of the finance committee?
Yeah,
It was.
we could talk about that.
Oh, it was independent.
Yes, and there was townspeople and finance board and working with our investment.
And why does it no longer exist? Inertia?
Yes,
I think that's a subject we could deal with after town meeting.
right. I'm just bringing it up now, seeing we are at a meeting and it's.
We can pursue it. Okay, any other comments to come before this committee meeting? If not, we thank everybody and I move at 6:51, 6:52, this meeting be adjourned. Thank you. See you all Monday.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.